There's been so many scandals over the past week, and we've had the controversial contract between the Communications Ministry and Kelny GVG Limited, the audit service report on several financial and procurement infractions by the National Health Insurance Authority. And just yesterday, we heard of the impending arrest of the president of the Ghana Football Association, Kwesi Nyantakyi. Today, we'll take a look at these scandals. Honorable Alhassan Suhuyini, Member of Parliament for Tamale North Constituency, and Kofi Oppong-Damoah, Head of Communications and Public Affairs at the Energy Ministry, are my guests for tonight. And you are watching The Hard Truth. We are proudly brought to you by Murphy Homes, Dawa Industrial City, and Paul's Fitness Gym. My name is Nana Akusia Kunedu Asante Samuels. Alhassan Suhuyini is the Member of Parliament for Tamale North Constituency. Nana Kofi Oppong-Damoah is the Head of Communications and Public Affairs of the Ministry of Energy. Are my guests for tonight. Welcome to The Heart, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Are you hungry or tired?
How do I look?
I don't know. But you look well. Tell me, what are you praying about? Tell me.
Well, basically praying for Allah's mercy. His forgiveness for sins that are committed knowingly and unknowingly, and for a better, life in this world and Jannah.
So, what did you have at dawn before, 6 a.m.?
I think I just had a cup of tea.
Are you sure? No TZ, no banku, no tilapia.
I wish I still could accommodate that appetite I used to have.
It's great having you.
Unfortunately, I don't.
It's great having you. My friend in a red tie, how are you, sir?
I'm very good.
And how is the Ministry of Energy treating you?
By the grace of God. We're
Yeah?
doing quite well. We're doing quite
But
well.
you look well. Is it the money or it's just the work?
I'm not very surprised that you're saying that is it the money or is this the work? Because, I'm sure that this is our first time of meeting.
Right.
So, but you look very beautiful yourself.
Oh, thank you so
is
much.
It the money or it's the work?
It's the work. But it's great having you guys on the show.
Thank you.
I'll start with you. An $89 million contract was signed between the Ministry of Communications and Finance and Kelny GVG Limited on, I think, December 27th last year, with objectives of blocking revenue losses in the telecommunications sector and stimulus fraud. Imani Africa and others have described this, as needless drain on the country's scarce resources. The government let me ask you if the government is wasting taxpayers' money on needless ventures.
So, first of all, we need to have this discussion within a certain framework. That government always awards contracts with the objective of achieving certain ends. And there's 89 million contract that has been described. On what basis? And I think the clarity, I haven't gotten the clarity yet. Perhaps if there's something that I do not understand, you may need to help me. On what basis is Imani saying that it is a needless drain on public resources? That angle, I do not properly understand. Because you see, what this contract seeks to do, first of all, is to ensure that revenues due the Republic of Ghana, which we all use for various projects, developmental projects in this country, are secured. This government has taken quite a number of steps to ensure that the taxation bit is made fairer and clearer. So if you look at the ports, for instance, we've brought about the paperless port system, which has tightened quite a lot of loopholes within the system and ensured that a lot of revenue leakages are blocked. We're also taking quite a couple of steps to ensure that some taxes that we consider to be nuisance taxes have also been eliminated from the system. So, within a general picture, revenue protection and ensuring that the taxation system is fair is clearly an objective of this government. The Ministry of Communication has made it very clear that it is a part of this mandate that they are seeking to execute.
I'm surprised because members of the party or the MPP, whilst in opposition, criticized similar contracts, which were awarded to Suba Info Solution and the Nafi Wave under the administration. Now the MPP government says, this new deal, is saving Ghana 1.1 million. And could this be the case?
So if that's the issue they want to discuss, then it becomes a political football that we can look at. But what is clear also is that this contract saves us 55% more than what the previous deal was. For example, are you aware that the Suba Info Solutions deal was not monitoring these calls in real time, but gathering data from the service of these mobile telephony companies and then doing an analysis of the data to give projections of revenues that government should collect? If that was the case, we collect data over a month, then I can doctor my data if I so wish and give it to you. Real-time monitoring was absent.
I see.
There were several other, segments of that contract that we can look at. But again, I want to be clear that if we can have the basis on which Imani is saying that this is a needless deal, then we can do a better job of analyzing it for the people of Ghana. But just to brand it as needless, that's very little.
Your thoughts on it, Suhuyini?
Well, first of all, there's a history to all of this, and it's important that that history is put in context so that we can understand what is happening. There was the need for the Ghana Revenue Authority to tax the telecom operators based on the output, the calls output. Now, to do that, the Ghana Revenue Authority decided to outsource this function to a company. It turned out that this company was Suba. It also turned out that the NCA was also considering monitoring the platforms, the mobile telecom platforms, to know the traffic that go through them. And so NCA was also in talks with GVG. Suba GVG is not new. Now, at the time, there was hullabaloo, especially from the telecom operators. They didn't think the arrangement was fair because some of them felt that the NCA, for example, had the capacity to do what Suba was going to do. And that is why my brother says that initially, what they used to do was to analyze data based on CDRs that were presented to Suba by the telecom operators. Now, through that discussion, a committee was set up to look at how to fine-tune what was in existence to the benefit of the taxpayer. The contract at the time was such that Suba Info Solutions got paid if revenues of Ghana Revenue Authority from the telecoms went up. So it was calculated based on how much, they made for Ghana Revenue Authority. Now, moving forward, we're told that Suba bought out GVG with $9 million. And so Suba was now responsible for monitoring real-time monitoring of the sector. People were still not satisfied and thought that it was a needless exercise. In fact, the telecom operators had issues with even privacy as far as, their consumers were concerned, and also complained that they had also invested already in interconnectivity and they didn't need, an external body to do all of that. There were various, arguments that were advanced at the time. The bottom line is that our colleagues who are now in government did not think that there was a need for that exercise whatsoever. And they thought it was cool money being given to Suba and at that time GVG. And it needn't have happened. They spoke against it and gave reasons why, so that NCA could have been better placed to even do it at no cost, and all kinds of things.
But George, and also stated on Super Morning Show again that, you know, the contract is 55% cheaper than the previous two contracts, and you have 2 more functions.
You see, I'm saying that, that's why I started with the history, that GVG is not new to interconnect clearing house. That brings me to the ICH. Now, whilst all this was going on, there was a need to pass a law in Parliament to make it compulsory for the telecom operators to hook onto a common platform that we use to monitor their data and also check symbols fraud. And that law was to enable us to take, full advantage of the communication service tax. Now, the ICH was passed. The ICH license was supposed to be issued. You had about 5 operators who applied for that license. These 5 operators again included at the time GVG, Suba, AfriWave, and others. Yeah. The license was given to Suba because basically at the time, the contract was given to AfriWave. In fact, at the time, it was even said that Suba and GVG had become one. So AfriWave showed, I think, better credentials and experience, because they built Westel and others and had dealt with the telecom operators over the period. So they showed a lot of capacity to do the job, and so they got the license to do monitor real time the calls and all of that.
So it's needless.
Fast forward. You see, there's a question of whether our brothers in government now are changing their position to whether it is needful or not. At that point, it was needless. Now they say it is needful. It is needed, and it is something that must be done. If that is not changing of positions, I don't know what that is. Then beyond that, the cost factor comes in. The cost factor comes in, and we are told it's $89 million. In fact, I've read somewhere that is actually more than $180 million. If you look at the data. As we speak, the records again show that GVG has already been paid about $7 million, for no work done. They have not done anything yet. They have not even analyzed CDLs. They have not even put
really,
but they have already been
doesn't that bother you? 7 million and over. I mean, no work done. What would you say?
Let me first of all state that it's their position that it's for no work done. But
what's the work? Where is there to show? What is there to show?
If I may, first of all, in the history that has just been given, there's a little bit of, I don't know how to put it, but with the coming in of AfriWave, for example, I want to read something to you, and it was very clear that there was a duplication of effort between AfriWave and Suba. Now, what was clear was that the NTA wrote on a number of occasions informing Suba Info Solutions Limited that their services were no longer needed. However, Suba ignored those letters and continued to provide those services despite the clear duplication of efforts. You must bear in mind the fact that the implementing agencies are 2. You have the NCA and you have the Ghana Revenue Authority. So this created a clear duplication of effort. So at the end of the day, the government of Ghana was those different agencies paying different amounts of monies for almost the same work that was being done. That was the basis for the categorization of the work being done by Suba Info Solutions as needless.
I see, but Kelly, let's look at this too.
So to say that
their mandate is to design, develop, and implement a common platform for traffic, monitoring, revenue assurance. And so the National Authority or Communications Authority obviously has, engineers and other technicians who are capable of doing this. So why waste resources again on paying that sums of money?
But back to it, to say that the government has changed its position, because back then it said it was needless and now it is implementing, is not fair, is not clear, because there was a clear duplication of the same job being done by two agencies. So if you are given the same job to two agencies who have contracted two other parties, then yes, clearly one was needless. That was the basis of that needless categorization. I would want them to say that as of now, we haven't done anything about the status quo as it existed then. And so we have changed our position. You'd realize that in his narrative, he has sought to establish that, first of all, the government has changed its position. And secondly, it's an issue of costing. So those are the two major problems they are seeking to raise. On the basis of it being needless or a change of position, I've addressed that. Clearly, you're duplicating efforts, and so one was not needed, and we made that point forcefully. Secondly, on the issue of costing, I would want them. Because you see, if you're saying that the costs are bloated or something, then let's do a side-by-side analysis. This is what you think should be the case, as opposed to what is the case. And then you can make a case that indeed what we have brought forth is bloated or there is a clear problem with it.
But I asked again, specifically, because of time, let's just go to the specifics. Yes, aren't they capable of, doing the same thing?
They may be capable of doing the same thing, but for a long-standing time in this republic, and global best practices has been that for contracts of this nature, obviously it is better to outsource. That's why the term outsourcing, even in contemporary business management, exists. So that the specialty of NCA is regulation and ensuring that, they implement policies of government, among others. The technicalities of building and designing and all of these things, in the opinion of the managers of this economy and the managers of NCA, among others, is best left to persons and organizations that have grown their specialty in these fields. This has been the case long-standing in so many things. If not, then we might as well say that even government agencies that outsource their cleaning to cleaning companies are doing the wrong things.
I see. Do you agree, Suhuyini?
No, not at all. I mean, maybe just to put it simply, so that we can perhaps move on. Now, the argument at the time was that the contract that was awarded to GVG by NCA and then the one that was awarded to SUBA by GRA were both needless. That was the argument. And there's no need to change the argument today. That was the argument, that they were both needless. Now, this argument was cured or settled when there was a need to issue the ICH license. And so AfriWave got that license, even though SUBA, Info Solutions, and GVG were also in the race for the license. AfriWave got that license to now do that real-time monitoring on behalf of GRA. But somehow, what we are seeing today is a kind of return to what was kicked against. I mean, what brought about the whole argument that led to us having the AfriWave being introduced to do the job. So that is why Imani is raising the issue that, look, we were with you on these grounds, that the National Communication Authority could have even done the monitoring for the GRA, because they are both government institutions. So if the National Communication Authority has the technicians, the engineers, and the platform to do the monitoring, why outsource it to a private company to do that monitoring at a cost, when these two government agencies could have been speaking to each other to save the taxpayer? That was the argument with Imani. I mean, the MPP raised with Imani then. And that is why Imani is uncomfortable today, that they seem to rather be making the situation worse by not just dealing with AfriWave, but going back to the position that they kicked against initially. And at this, I mean, in this particular case, you have NCA actually paying the contractor involved, that is GVG, that is doing a job for, say, the Ministry of Communications or the GRA. I mean, how does NCA pay a company to do a job for the Ministry of Communications or the the GRA. If it is GRA that is contracting somebody to do this sort of auditing or monitoring for that organization, GRA should be paying for it.
Right.
If it is the Ministry of Communication that is doing the contracting, they should be paying for it. NCA shouldn't be paying for it. So where does the NCA come in to be dealing with GVG to a point that they will be paying for a service that they will be rendering, to GRA? Because it is GRA that needs the revenue in this case. So when the monitoring shows how much GRA should take from the telecom operators, GRA is not obliged to share it with NCA. So why is NCA paying for this?
We'll be right back. We'll be right back to stay. Welcome back to The Hard Truth, and we are proudly brought to you by Murphy Homes Tower Industrial City and Pulse Fitness Gym. Alhassan Suhuyini, Member of Parliament for Tamale North Constituency. Nana Kofi Oppong-Damoah is the Head of Communications and Public Affairs at the Ministry of Energy. Welcome again to The Hard Truth.
Thank you.
A member of Parliament, a member of the board of NCA, Mrs. Susan Barbara Boy, resigned from her position as a board member in February, I think this year, without stating any reason. Now, there are attempts to link her resignation to discontent within the board concerning the contract, even though the NCA has released, I think, a press statement to dispute this. Do you think behind all the scenes, or what we are seeing now, it's not all rosy between the board and what the minister is saying? I'll start with Suhuyini.
Well, when I hear of some of these things, I get encouraged that there are still very principled people in this country. I was reading about Black of Phase 2's resignation, and I'm sure that if we had many of such people in this government, if you consider some of the scandals that have come up, we would have had so many of such resignations. Unfortunately, there are just a few of them who have had the guts to walk out, because they simply cannot accept the situation where they expected better and they expected so much, but are currently living with so much worse than they criticize. So you have Black Coffee and others, and some other areas where, if such people were in those areas, they would have walked out, like BOST, like the National Lottery Authorities, like even at the presidency, all the things that are coming up. So when I hear people like that, I get
we can't
encouraged.
100% say that she resigned because of the.
For now, we can't. But she hasn't also said she didn't resign because of that. There has been this publication. She hasn't said that she didn't resign because of that. NCA, yes, as an institution, will not want that kind of publication to stand without challenge. But I will value her position more than NCA's position.
I mean, from
and
where
she's
you say,
not dumb, she's not
why
dead.
do you think she resigned?
I don't know why she resigned, but the reports that her resignation may have been linked to her disapproval of what is happening it sells more with me. It sits more, better with me.
But she's not come out yet.
Fantastic, and that is why that sits better with me, because you see, if you did something and a wrong motive is assigned to it, especially involving corruption and scandals such as this, you will speak out. If you are not dumb, you are not dead, and you are not dead, you will speak out. You will say that, look, I resigned for some other reasons and not this. But NCA as an institution is entitled to do what they have done. They have a public relations office, and you know what that office is supposed to do: make the institution look good. And this doesn't make the institution look good. So that is why I will not place so much premium on the statement that has been issued by the NCA. But I think that moving forward, what is happening just exposes a lot of misinformation that was peddled in the past, and that's why I've always said that the danger in riding a lion to go for a hunt is that you may end up in the lion's stomach, and that is happening to our colleagues.
Do you agree?
I am surprised by the extent to which the Honourable Member of Parliament is going to try to make something stick. That an honourable member of a board decided to resign as way back as the 12th of February 2018 to today is the 23rd of May. We are having these discussions, let's say over the last 1 week. So all of a sudden, because she resigned, we are being invited to take a road trip into her mind as to why she resigned. And what sits better for a section of the Ghanaian population is that it could be due to discontent over some of these things. But I can tell you factually that as at the 12th of February, decisions regarding these things were not even finalized because the stakeholder committee meetings were held on the 8th of March. 8th of March. So now we are being invited to assume and assign reasons. And the defense is that, yes, the woman hasn't come out to say, I resigned because of this particular fact. But we are being invited to also go down the path that, well, she hasn't also denied it, so it's true. You haven't stepped out of your house. And so, well, you haven't told us the reason why you stepped out of your house. So I think it's because you're afraid of the puddle of what the pool of water.
I'm thinking, why are we even connecting her resignation to this?
That's a question you should ask those that say it sits better with them. I don't get it.
I see,
Can I answer that question? Can I answer that question? Because can I answer that question if you want me to?
Let him finish.
Well, he said you should ask me that question, so I wanted to answer.
There's a reason why in our jurisprudence we say that a person is not guilty until it is proven beyond reasonable doubt. Let us not now seek to go, introduce into our public discourse a certain very weak line.
But Nana, there are speculations again that the board of NCA don't or do not want to toe the line of the public spat that happened between TOR and the CEO of Energy Ministry on the conversations of TOR into a tank farm. Rather they are trying to solve the issue behind the scenes. Could that be the case?
I like what you have said. You are inviting all of us to engage based on speculations. And speculations are such that I could sit here and in the wildest of my imaginations come up with something against you. And then the whole of the Ghanaian population should be invited to discuss my speculation without providing any basis.
Could it also be true and they're just trying to solve it, behind the scenes?
I'm saying that what you're asking us to discuss is speculation. And surely public discourse should be based on better things than speculation. Because you see, if we decide to go there, then as a nation, what we are doing, it's a very, look, I can get up today and my brother here decide that, okay, I'm speculating. Sweeney decided to wear this outfit and give my reasons for it. And
I see.
That is where we want to invite ourselves to be engaging in for national discourse. Surely we must hold ourselves to better standards.
You see, I agree with him to some extent that the reasons for the resignation of this board member should not take center stage. What is involved here is $89 million US, $7 million advance to GVG for no work done. That is what should engage all of us more, aside the reasons why or possible reasons why the said board member resigned. But what cannot also be discounted is the fact that there's example of people resigning because they are uncomfortable with happenings in their institutions.
I see.
That's the first one. The second reason why that can also not be discounted is the fact that media men who have been following this story and have indicated they have spoken to NCA members and some board members are those telling us that her resignation is as a result of this whole transaction.
But do we really need her to come back to tell us her reasons for resigning?
And then again, if you look at the progress of things, remember I told you that GVG is not new to NCA. GVG was there even in the days of Suba. and Suba had to buy out GVG when the noise was loud.
Yeah.
So GVG has always had a relationship with NCA. So whether a stakeholders meeting was held in March or not, as a board member of NCA, he would have been privy to what engagements are underway
but I'm
to
curious,
ensure that
should
GVG
we
is given
really
this contract.
call her back to for her to give us her reasons for
in
resignation?
the absence of her position now, in the absence of her stated position or reason why she resigned, I will want to believe the report that the media people who are doing the investigation into these things and have told us they have spoken to NCA people have given out.
Okay, but
May I just correct one thing?
because of time,
In a minute.
in 15 seconds. Yeah.
I have spoken to the producers.
Yeah.
Who tell me that you have a hatred for the government of the day. Listen to the statement.
You spoke to which producer?
I'm just saying.
Right.
Good question. Good question. That's exactly what we are being invited to accept as fact. Media men are talking to people who work at NCA. Which people, on what basis, so we can even ascertain.
It's possible they spoke to her. She's part of the people who work at
land?
NCA. It's possible they spoke to her, but she doesn't want her name to come out.
You are
So let her
inviting
speak.
us. No, nobody has got there from speaking, but you are inviting us to go down a very bad path of pure speculation. And I've just given a clear example, and let me repeat for all viewers to note that thing I said is again just
Which
for the
thing?
That you have a hatred for NPPP. It's just for exemplary purposes.
We get it.
That,
we get it.
This
but
is it.
moving
And
on.
I'm saying that the Honourable Member of Parliament is seeking to validate this position by asking all of us to go there. And I'm insisting that surely our public discourse should be elevated beyond such standards.
I see, but Franklin Kujo has been one of the front runners kicking against
agree.
this deal. The communications minister suspects him of, having hidden agenda, and she asked him questions. Who are you working for? Considering the consistency of Franklin's similar criticisms on other deals with the NDC government. Would you say that the ministry or the minister is looking for someone to blame or on the wrong side?
I will not want to go there because I do not know the basis for the minister making all of these allegations. However, I have said that I'm not very aware of what the basis of Imani's criticisms are. And I've invited you to elucidate further on this matter as to why Imani is criticizing the deal. Because what I know are the headline items that Imani has said it is, baseless, it is needless. But on what basis? In this studio, we have identified two major issues raised by the Honourable Suhuyini. One is that he has attempted to say that government has shifted position, which I have proved is not so. Secondly,
you have already said it's not so. You haven't proved anything.
Okay, so should I repeat that fact so everybody
Please don't.
understands?
Well,
Move on.
I have proved beyond it that it is not so. The second point is that he's raising issues of pricing. And I'm saying that the only way we can fully and surely come to an understanding.
I'm asking specifically, why is the minister saying that?
I have spoken, I've addressed.
But Franklin has been doing this.
I have addressed.
You came up. What would you say?
yes. So you see, I think that is the situation that happens when you find yourself in a corner, such as the minister and his deputies have found themselves in. I mean, they are just looking for a scapegoat. They are looking for a possible reason to discredit Imani. Like I know many, people have.
But I remember they were strongly behind Franklin when after
that's the point. That's what I'm saying. You see, with Afuwe and Suba, it served their political interest. But you see, at that time, you had a government.
So
you had a government that was very sensitive to the public opinion. And so when the issues came up and a committee was set up and a duplication was noticed, quickly a remedial, measure was put in place, leading to a license, ICH license being given to AfriWave and others, just to make sure that the system was made foolproof. Now, we have a situation where today, and that is why I want us to always remember, there's something here that perhaps is not coming out very well. That GVG has always had a relationship with the National Communication Authority. And GVG, at some point we're told, was bought out by Suba. Why is GVG all of a sudden so strong enough to even take a contract from AfriWave, which beat, Suba and others to that bit? Why? That should be of interest. GVG, at a point, sold out to Suba.
But again,
today, GVG is so credible
that
the NPP government wants us to believe that they can do a better job or are doing a better job, even though they haven't been able to yet explain what the $7 million, what they did to earn the $7 million that has been paid to them already.
Franklin's also asking ESLA to step aside and allow investigations to go on. Do you subscribe to this?
Look, in our jurisprudence, we must first of all establish what is called a prima facie case for actions to be taken. And I'm sitting here and I'm still asking that what is the basis, what is the gravamen of the issue upon which Franklin Kujo and Imani are making all of the statements they are making? The majority of the Ghanaian people like me do not understand it. I have explained here, and I find it very ingenious that the Honourable Member seeks to want to hint that indeed the issue of the Internet Connect Clearinghouse cleared the duplication, because it did not. I'll tell you that at a stakeholders meeting held on the 8th of March at the Holiday Inn Hotel, I can tell you the participants in that meeting, and at that meeting, AfriWave made presentations. So did also Suba Info Solutions. And after all of those presentations, it was made clear that indeed the duplication of effort was still ongoing. To address that matter, NCA was then appointed to be the lead agency in ensuring that we have a consolidation. So it is not true that the Interconnect Clearinghouse and the issuing of the license remediated that situation. It did not. Now, if indeed we are now calling for investigations among others, I am not against investigations in any way. I think that shedding more light on these matters actually will be to the benefit of the people of Ghana. And so, by all means, let's investigate. But if you are calling for people to step aside, the rightful thing to do, therefore, is to come out and say, look, preliminary findings even are enough to provide a basis to say that this is why these people should step aside. And this president has shown clearly that he is able to issue instructions ordering the subordinates to step aside. I remind you of the scandal in Australia. I remind you of even the issues that happened, was it the Upper East or Upper West region? So it is clear. But let us go through the process, not because an individual thinks or an organization thinks that this is so, and so we can get up and make these calls. Again, I'm saying that the issues as addressed by the Honourable Member are two. On the issue of the shifting position, there's no basis for that. On the issue of pricing, let us have it side by side.
You've said that several times.
You've
said that several times. Let's move on. Let's move on.
The Ghana, yes.
We've talked extensively on this
maybe just a small bit.
And not address it.
Just a small bit.
So now, the Ghana Audit Service recently cited the National Health Insurance Authority for financial malfeasance and abuse of procurement processes. Now, the assessments indicated that NHIA might be losing close to 23 million Ghana cedis and another $3 million because of a duplication of contract activities and on unsubstantiated payments. Considering the issues of financial sustainability of NHIS, isn't this worrying? I'll start with Suhuyini.
You see, it is worrying, but then again, what are we going to do with the report? What pragmatic measures will we see the government putting in place to ensure that people who deserve a whip get whipped? What we know the president is very good at doing is clearing his people. Here we are today, from the presidency to the National Lottery Authorities, to the Finance Ministry, to BOST, to, I mean, almost every agency today. Now we are discussing national health insurance. The national health insurance that they used extensively to woo voters, because at the time they said it was not functioning, even though the enrollment had increased, utilization had increased. They still managed to convince a section of the Ghanaian people that it had collapsed. Now we know why they did that, because it would have afforded them the opportunity that it has afforded them to get into the public space and to, appropriate the funds that should have improved the service in the manner that we are told that is being done. This was a president, remember, who talked about sole sourcing and made sole sourcing synonymous to corruption. I wasn't surprised, because I'm sure that he was briefed about some of these things. In Parliament today, if you go there, there's a construction that is ongoing. Just by Job 600, sole sourced, millions of Ghana cedis, sole sourced. So when you had the president meet the press the last time and try to draw a league table of how many sole source contracts happened under NDC and how many are happening under his watch, I wondered if he had forgotten that he told the people of Ghana that sole source was synonymous to corruption. And so he was telling the people of Ghana that, okay, assuming John Mahama had 50 sole source contracts, I only have 30.
What you say, did you
so what
think
it means
this
is
current
that
government is corrupt?
I mean, just going by their own words. There's no other word to use to describe them. Going by their own accusations in the past and their own standards in the past, there's no better word. Super incompetent, I think, is a better phrase.
I see.
Beyond the corruption.
What would you say?
Or aside of the corruption.
I'm shocked at the desperation attempting to make this government look out. And ordinarily, I know that the people of Ghana will view this as political football. But let's step beyond that, and I'll attempt to be extremely objective in this. What we are discussing today is a draft audit report. It is based on observations in a draft audit report, which, as a member of parliament, Honorable is clearly aware will be presented to management, for management to put together their comments and responses, for those to be taken into account in the preparation of the final report, before it then becomes factual that this is what has happened. Today, on the basis of a draft audit report, this is the language that is being used. Draft audit report. On the basis of a draft audit report. Today, if I speak of JIDA, I do not need to wait for anybody.
How different would a draft be from the actual paper or the report?
We all know here that once a draft audit report is presented to management, red flags are raised. Perhaps there's a need for clarification of some issues. Perhaps further documentation will have to be presented to the audit service to clear up some other documents. Perhaps at the point where the auditors were there, some transactions were not closed. So when the draft audit report raises all of these questions, then management's attention is brought to them that, look, you have to address these issues for us to incorporate into it.
Okay.
You may remember, if I may, you may remember that recently issues of financial transactions and debt owed by various ministries, agencies, and departments came up. And it was a draft that came out first. Later on, some clarifications had to be made that indeed some companies that were alleged to have received double payments, among others, did not receive those double payments, and clarifications were given. And I'm saying that if you think that indeed there's an abundance of evidence that a government is corrupt, then surely there's more than draft audit reports to discuss and use such language. Look, people are coming to your house. You are very aware that there are a lot of people coming to your house and you're having a party. You should rather be worried about the food in your house and not be seeking to carry the food outside to go and give to beggars by the street. If indeed there's an abundance of evidence, today if I seek to speak of Jida, I do not need to wait for anybody's clarification. The facts are there. Today, if I seek, and I'm surprised that he decided to use bus branding of all the incidences. Really, that is what we want to seek to justify incidences of corruption with. Bus branding.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. You are still watching The Hard Truth, proudly brought to you by Murphy Homes, Dower Industrial City and Paul's Fitness Gym. Honorable Alhassan Suhuyini, Member of Parliament for Tamale North Constituency, Nana Kofi Oppong-Damoah, Head of Communications and Public Affairs at the Ministry of Energy. So, among other things, the authority was found to have authorized payments of about 400,000 to 20 members of, Health Committee of Parliament to sensitize their constituents on health insurance scheme, I think in 2007 in December. And 2017, December 2017, sorry. The audit found no acknowledgement of the receipt of funds on the activities budget detailing the exact work undertaken. The audit also concluded that the payment lacked accountability and transparency. But what would you say?
That's why I would say that again, we are being invited to address a draft audit report.
But this is fact.
It's draft.
The monies were given to them. I mean, you are in Parliament.
No, if I may address that matter. A draft audit report says that at the point where auditors were auditing this,
yes,
we found this to be a shortage. Can you address this matter for us? Management is now going to say that, okay, listen, perhaps these documents weren't readily available now. This is the documents we have.
No, but why give 400,000 Ghana cedis to 20 Member of Parliament for them to sensitize their constituents?
So now we are being invited to look at the merits or demerits of that issue. What I'm saying is, it is nothing but a draft audit report. So if indeed we want to do the people of Ghana any good, let's wait and have management be unable to provide receipts and actually address these issues that have been raised in the draft audit report. Then it becomes a fact.
No, but we are looking at sustainability of the scheme. You are dashing out money to
but the
20 Member of Parliament.
The question, no, see, that right there is where the assumption
I'm listening.
You are assuming that the money has been dashed out. As of now, it's a draft report. You cannot take that to any court to prosecute anybody.
I'm impressed with the fascination that my brother has.
I think you need to be fair with me.
I'm being fair with you. Let him finish.
It's a draft audit report. You cannot, on the basis of a draft report, take anybody on. Recently, when SNIT released an audit report, one of the biggest accusations of the NDC at the time was that inputs from the previous administration of SNIT, though they were no longer workers of SNIT, were not sought. NDC at the time was making inferences to the fact that inputs, responses, even though the persons who the report indicted were no longer part of SNIT at the time, their inputs were not sought. Today we have a draft report. The people haven't left. They are still there. Why not give them the chance? Because it's a process. Look, if you have done something wrong, you will be found out. So why don't we sit and wait for these matters? Why don't we sit and wait for these matters to crystallize? Why the rush? Again, sentiments are being put out there that there is more than enough corruption in today's society. If that be the case, why not wait for a draft report to crystallize? Then we can discuss it.
You should wait for the draft report to crystallize.
It's amazing. It's amazing
and
that
it's a fair process.
We are told by my colleague, especially because it's coming from the MPP, that there's a need for us to wait and hasten slowly when it comes to issues of alleged corruptions. He talked about Jida, he talks about Bas Brandon, and he says, really, yes, really, those issues, nobody waited for an official report before a discussion of it started. So. Nobody waited for an official report. In fact, it was the discussions and the agitations that led to some investigations to arrive at conclusive, reports. So nobody is going to, yes, I agree, that is a draft report.
I'm concerned about the 400,000,
I am not a member of the finance committee. I cannot speak for them. But what I noticed also in the report is that there was no acknowledgement of receipt by the MPs. And that is what the audit team is raising a query about. Yes, from the part of the National Health Insurance Authority, there is a voucher, a payment voucher to MPs. But even on those payment vouchers, no MP has acknowledged receipt. So that raises an issue of whether or not it was actually paid to the MPs or it is, something that has just been cooked at the National Health Insurance Authority. So it is left with the National Health Insurance Authority managers to prove that indeed those monies went to the MPs. Because according to the audit report, no, 400,000 cedis has been spent. That is in no doubt.
Yes.
It has been spent.
Yes.
But the question is, or questions are, why to the committee members? Because they are not the only people or constituents that need to understand the workings of National Health Insurance. That's the first question. The second question too is whether indeed it actually went to them. So you see, the point I'm making is that these are allegations of corruption in an audit report. And it is not just limited to this one. It's not just limited to National Health Insurance. Remember, even before now, there was also this issue of somebody influence peddling using the president's name at the National Health Insurance. You remember that story? And that person had to be sanctioned here and there. So it's in almost every facet of government, operations under this MPP. All you see are attempts to corrupt, attempts to defraud, using influence peddling, using all kinds of things. And that is why I will be happy we have time to discuss Kwesi Nyantakyi.
Moving on to that. There's been so much controversy. I can see you want to rebut, but because of time, let's just move on to Nyantakyi.
There's been so much.
There's been so much. Oh, I see. But there's been so much controversy.
In an excellent manner. Thank you very much.
There's been so much controversy in the Ghana Football Association and its president, Kwesi Nyantakyi. Yesterday came to light that Nyantakyi is, to be arrested and investigated for allegedly using the president and his vice to defraud some investors. I mean, how did you receive the news?
I'm not sure the release from the presidency used the word arrest. But what I know was that there was a clear directive from the president that the matter should be investigated because the president has had the privilege of viewing some evidence, and to him it establishes that certain acts meant to defraud certain persons have taken place. That is what any responsible leader of any country will do. The president has not acted to shield anybody. The president has not acted to sweep matters under the carpet. The president has not waited for a public outcry to push him to cause investigations to be done, as the Honorable Suhuyini has admitted that it was public outcry that caused the then president to cause an investigation into Jida. This president hasn't waited for all of those things to happen. What he has done is, on his own accord, he has looked at it, being the lawyer that he is, being the person who has such a respect for the Constitution and the good people of Ghana, saying that no, even before this thing becomes a public issue, I think that it is right that investigations of this nature are conducted into it to ascertain the veracity of it. In any case, the Deputy Chief of Staff, when he was speaking, said the President has looked at it, he has consulted, and he himself, as President of the Republic, being a lawyer of so many years standing, is convinced that there is a case. However, he did not act ultra vires by issuing instructions that will infringe upon the procedures that we have in this country. So he has directed it to the proper state institution, or one of the state institutions
to handle it.
That is how you build strong institutions.
I see. What are your thoughts on it?
My thoughts are simple. It's an attempt to preempt, divert attention, and cover up.
Cover up what? Preempt what? Direct what?
Anas has done his investigations. The people of Ghana are here to watch what Anas captured. Why the rush to single out Kwesi Nyantakyi when we have heard that indeed there are references being made to the president's chief of staff and some of his ministers and deputy ministers? Why is the attempt to shift the focus on Kwesi Nyantakyi? Why? But again.
But looking at it this way, so if I am the president,
because I don't have time, I would have
watched it. So the president watched it, and someone said something doesn't sit so well with him. So yes, immediately
the president, we are told, has not watched the full.
No, but
what do you call
he
it?
watched
what
was pertaining to him.
To him,
yeah.
Yes, I understand that. But what the president hasn't told us is his relationship with Kwesi Nyantakyi. That gives Kwesi Nyantakyi the audacity to use him.
What has that got to do with anything?
You see, we don't know if Kwesi Nyantakyi was doing that on behalf of the president. And it's only being used as a scapegoat because alarm blow, like we say in Ghana. Because everybody knows that Kwesi Nyantakyi is the president's friend. And Kwesi Nyantakyi actually frequents the Flagstaff House. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows that Kwesi Nyantakyi was at war with the former, Minister of Sports, Neil Ante-Vanderpoel, under NDC for more than 2 years. With support of John Mahama. With support of John Mahama, because he appointed him, and if he was uncomfortable with Neil Ante, he would have removed him.
That's not true.
But Neil Ante waged that war against GFA, and guess who came to the GFA's defense? The current sports minister defended the GFA. And Kwesi Nyantakyi, for that matter. And everybody who associated with Kwesi Nyantakyi knows that he has a fantastic relationship with the president. So why is the president preempting this? Could it just be that alarm blow? But yes, he knows about these deals. He gets $5 million, the vice president gets $3 million, and then they get a presidential reminder gift for Alhassan Suhuyini.
I see. That's an interesting one.
You see, again, in this program, all the Honorable Suhuyini has done has invited us to speculate. His words are, could it be?
Invitations.
So in this program, all he has done, he has not adduced any factual.
That is why the president should have waited for all of us to watch the
problem.
full.
But can I
Let
finish?
him finish, please do.
Thank you. All he has done in this program is, could it be? I think so.
No.
Maybe. That's all he has done.
Are you sure?
Well, that's not what I've done.
His words, and I'm
That's not what
repeating,
I've done.
and I'm repeating his words.
Some of his words.
Yes.
No, but I'm
Exactly.
saying that
So if you
the
are
last
quoting me and
statement
say I
he
shouldn't
made
interject, then
is
that's
that
not fair.
it
Because
could
quote me
be.
rightly.
It could be. If you want, let's play the tape back.
But what is
See,
fact is
See,
the
let him
relationship.
Let him finish because of time. Yes, please
What
let
is
him
fact?
land.
Because yes,
Let
but
me
there's
land.
no
I
time.
did
So
not
if he's
interject-
quoting me
I
and he's
did
not
not
quoting me
interject you.
right,
Let him
Did
finish.
you say that
Really,
you
let
did
him
not
finish.
say
Context.
that it could be? That's all you've done.
So your point
No.
is
You have invited us to speculate from what board directors think to what issue. You are just basically speculating all over the place
struggling.
in an attempt to try and cast a shadow of corruption on the sitting government and the president. I am saying that if indeed there's an abundance of evidence, then let's go to the facts. Stop inviting people to speculate with you and lay down the facts that nobody can controverse. Then we can speak to it. But if you are just inviting everybody to speculate all over the place, surely, I repeat it, public discourse must be made of stiffer, higher standards. Speculations are just not good enough. Personal opinions, may I finish?
Let's move on.
Personal opinions, political colorations, personal political convictions are not good enough. You cannot attempt to foster these things upon the people of Ghana as facts, or pseudo facts, or whatever you call it. It could be, and that is what we should all speculate on.
Can we move
It
on?
could be.
Let's move on.
It could
I know.
be.
I know. Let's just move on. Now,
It could
are
be.
meaningless. You see, because
Moving
facts
on.
are meaningless.
time is not on our side,
Facts
gentlemen.
are
Can we
meaninless
just
when they
move on?
don't. Facts are meaningless when they don't inform you
you see what I'm
about what
talking
is
about.
to be.
You see what I'm
What
talking
what
about.
can
You see what I'm
happen.
talking about.
Now
What
the
are you
fact-
talking about?
The fact
He is again
look,
seeking to
the
repeat
fact- The fact is that, listen, the fact is that
please take leadership.
Kofi Nyantichi has a relationship with the president, a good relationship.
That's
That's a fact. No, that's a fact. He says I didn't state facts.
said that already.
He's saying I didn't state facts. I'm counting the facts that I stated. The fact is that he has a fantastic relationship. The fact is that he was at loggerheads with the previous government and got defended by the current minister. That's a fact.
But the fact is also that John Mahama blocked an investigation into GFA.
That is not true.
It is true. It is factual. It
Where?
was stated. It was stated by Kofi
Now,
Oppong-Damoah.
moving on from that, it seems former
And that is
President
fact. Kofi
Mahama
Oppong-Damoah is
It
fact.
is a fact that Kofi Oppong-Damoah said
So
it.
the point I have made is
It
Can we
is
move on?
factual that Kofi Oppong-Damoah made that statement.
I've made
moving
is that
on
So if-
away
if
from
you-
this,
if
we've
you will
made
insist that
our
we move on,
points,
let's
we've
go
had
ahead.
our facts. Let's
Thank
move
you.
on. It seems former President Mahama has hopes of contesting the flag bearership race. What do you think of his comeback? I'll start with you, Suhuyini.
You see, I wouldn't mind even if I use all the time to correct some assertions and not speak of President Mahama.
Please speak of
President
President Mahama.
President Mahama, by the conduct of this government, looks so good. So good. And the people of Ghana out there know that indeed, you know, like I have made reference to Fancy Gadam's song, they actually got born three virgins who pretended and told them that they were virgins. and what they have on their hands are, you know, a group of, you know, cheats. Total cheat is what was played on the people of Ghana.
It's a good move.
And that is why it is going to be an exciting time to see President Mahama, who will be campaigning on a record against Nana Akufo-Addo, who will now also have a record. Remember, in 2016, the decision was based on a record versus a promise. A record versus a promise. So people thought that, okay, you have a record, but we think these promises are more enticing, so let's go for that. This time, it will not be about promises. It's going to be a record of 4 years versus a record
really,
of 4 years.
What of Spio, Babin, and Sylvester Mensah and Co?
No, we're talking about Mahama. We're talking about Mahama.
I mean, yes, but I want to know, they're all in the NDC party,
I am still very interested about the fact that Kofi Nyantichi should not be used as a scapegoat.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
He should not be used
straight to
as
the
a
question.
scapegoat.
Coming straight to the question. What do you make? What do you think?
See, I've already told you that I don't mind spending all my time on Kofi Nyantichi. I've told you
I
that.
know.
So it is important that the president once again does not run away from this corruption case that is right in his doorstep. It is very important.
So
because
Mahama
Kofi
coming back
is a very good friend of President Nana Akufo-Addo. He frequents the Flagstaff House and he does these deals, I believe, in the name of the president. And so the president cannot say that he is unaware of this.
My goodness, gentlemen. What's wrong with
let
you?
it be known. Yes.
Again, the speculation is based on what he wants to bring us. It's circumstantial. So because A is here and B is here and D is there, it could be. Again, I'm saying facts should be made of stronger.
I'm talking about President Mahama's
it
comeback.
is a fact.
Yes.
And I'll link it
do
all up.
Yeah, please do.
That Kofi Nyantichi supported and financed your
It
party.
is a fact that Elvis
And wherever he got the money from to finance the party, we are now finding out.
Was the campaign chairman for John Mahama 2012. When he was embroiled in the mess of Brazil, he pulled him to the presidency. He could not even let him go. That is a fact that no one can traverse. That is a fact that has been investigated and it has been established.
Mahama,
John Mahama, for me.
Why don't you prosecute Elvis Sankara if you
Mahama,
think he did
please,
something
guys.
wrong?
Let's just.
Why don't you take him to court?
John Mahama, being the disaster he is, will be the perfect choice for us in the MPP to come. Listen, this was a man who was campaigning on the mosaic idea, Onapo. They told the people of Ghana that we cannot even have a leader like him. We are blessed. The people of Ghana gave him the worst electoral defeat that the NDC has suffered since it was established, 44.4%. Recently, I had a friend of mine come over on a Saturday and we were discussing issues. He said, listen, leave them alone. They are still drunk on Onapo bitters, which is made up of 44.4% alcohol.
I see.
And listen, track record versus track record. I refer you to a statement that John Mahama made when he went for the unity walk in Tamale. He said it is good that the NDC lost the elections, because if they hadn't, the people of Ghana would have believed that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the president, and his team could reduce electricity prices. Have they reduced electricity prices? No. He then proceeded to say it is 419 among others. Today, have electricity prices been reduced? That is why the president said that come 2020, they will not have a message. The things they are now trumpeting about, 1 district, 1 factory, $1 million. The president, bear in mind, has a 4-year mandate. Come 2020,
you didn't answer his question. You didn't answer his question. Are you paying less for electricity
2020,
now?
are you not?
From 2016
I do the answers, I do the questions, you guys answer. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on The Hard Truth. I've been talking to Honorable Alhassan Suhuyini, Member of Parliament for Tamale North Constituency, and Nana Kofi Oppong-Damoah. He is the Head of Communications and Public Affairs at the Ministry of Energy. Thank you guys for coming. But next time, please, let's have like a peaceful conversation. You did great.
I didn't do that. Be fair.
You've been watching The Hard Truth, and we are proudly brought to you by Murphy Homes, Dawa Industrial City, and Paul's Fitness Gym. Catch a repeat of the program tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. My name is Nana Akusia Kunedu. Asante Sana. Have a good night. Bye.